Good evening, I'm Jill Valley.
And I'm Dennis Bragg. Lake County authorities say they're hot on the trail of a group of thieves making their living off of stealing from homes in the Mission Valley.
Now, for some victims, it's just their cars that get broken into, but for others, the target is much bigger. Tonight, we go on special assignment and find out how drugs and crime are putting a community on edge.
This is the first week I've been able to talk about it without crying.
Last October, thieves broke into Sandy Sorrell's St. Ignatius home and stole her underwear and her art, expensive outdoor gear, even the grill off the barbecue, and all about $200,000 worth of her belongings. And when they were done, they kicked in doors, punched walls, and committed other bizarre acts. They
broke off every light bulb in the house, in the socket, and I guess they smoked the meth out of the light bulb, and every lamp in the house is broke.
We've had burglaries where they've taken their passports, their wills.
Lake County Sheriff Don Bell believes drugs and the relentless pursuit of them have created new career criminals. In this case, a group of thugs who take what they want, often descending on someone's home like locusts, taking everything.
A lot of these people are so organized that they're renting storage units for the stuff that they're stealing. And so we're working that angle, and we're also setting up electronic devices.
Sandy had been gone for a few days taking care of her mother. The crime scene video shows what she came home to. These people are in search of the top dollar items, of course, but in Sandy's case, they even took shampoo and her bedding.
They really like your guns because they can trade that for drugs right away. Drugs and cash and gold and stuff, which they trade. The other stuff they'll consume themselves if they need the clothes or if they need that, or they'll trade. Some of the stuff I'm not really sure why they. We had one they stole their vacuum cleaner. I'm thinking they must have just needed a vacuum cleaner.
Sheriff Bell says the group of burglars works together, listening to community chatter or watching Facebook to figure out who's out of town or when a house might be vacant for a while. The situation started to get a little bit better 2 to 3 months ago after the Lake County Sheriff's Office arrested a group of people they believe were burglarizing homes in the Ronan and Polson area. But now they have their sights set on another group of people who are targeting Arlee and St. Ignatius. A Facebook page helps crime victims tell the community what's been stolen and to be on the lookout. And for the past year, the St. Ignatius community has had a monthly neighborhood watch to curb crime. In Sandy's case, they took a lot more than just her stuff.
I feel their fingers touching everything of mine. Unbelievable that we have come to this point, that someone could actually do such a cruel thing and take everything, my whole life. I'm starting over.
Now, Sheriff Bell says it's jail overcrowding that's part of the problem because often burglary suspects bond right out and go back and steal some more the very day they get out of jail. He advises a home defense system if you can get one, but to watch each other's homes. Keep an eye out for people who should not be in your neighborhood. Sandy, meantime, has a GoFundMe account to try to recover all she's lost. You can find that information at kpax.com.
Well, following up now on a story we reported last month, an update to a woman's search for the Good Samaritan that she claims saved her life after she was involved in a crash on Highway 93 near Blue Mountain. Jill Valley has a follow-up on the story. Jill?
All right, Dennis, thanks so much. Now, we don't know who she is. She won't give us her name, but she did send us a letter in response to a news story about that woman who was hurt in that Highway 93 crash last month. One of the victims wants to thank her for saving her life, but this humble hero is not taking any credit. It was the evening of January 4th on Highway 93 South near Blue Mountain. Two vehicles collide. Carrie O'Neill was ejected 26 feet, her pelvis shattered. As she laid on a wet sleeping bag in the cold snow, she remembers a woman who stayed by her side.
I remember she came running up and she had a phone in her hand, was yelling, "Call 911." And she had blonde hair and glasses.
Carrie told us she wanted to meet this woman with the blonde hair and glasses, to thank her and give her a hug. But Friday, we got an anonymous letter from a woman who believes she might be the one Carrie is looking for. She described to us what happened that night and why she pulled over to help.
Sat by me and held my hand the whole time until I got in the ambulance and kept me awake. I wouldn't think I'd be here if it wasn't for her.
Our mystery woman takes none of the credit. She says it's the EMTs and law enforcement who are out there in the dark on busy highways, saving lives, putting themselves in harm's way. She writes, Missoula has incredibly talented and skilled emergency personnel. Our law enforcement in the Sheriff's Department, the City PD, as well as the Montana Highway Patrol are phenomenal. As I left the scene of that accident, I told one of the officers that I don't know how they do it. She also believes those first responders deserve better pay. It's a sad statement about the value we place on these dedicated, amazingly skilled people. She may not have saved Carrie's life in the medical sense, but maybe just by holding her hand and reassuring her she wasn't alone in that cold night, she saved her spirit. Although Carrie wants to say thank you instead, she's left with this advice. She writes, Carrie, pay it forward. Random acts of kindness are what makes this world a better place. So the story gets even more amazing because I received that lovely anonymous note. I got another one that same day from another person who was at the scene, who was also a Good Samaritan, who helped Carrie that night. And she says in her note that she's just very pleased that she's doing well, and she just wants her to know she's glad she's doing okay. So as another person put it, she had a lot of angels looking out for her that night.
I'm not surprised, Joe, because on these accident scenes, there's so many different people jumping in to help. I'm not surprised there may be more than one, and certainly credit to everybody who helps out in those kinds of situations.
It's reassuring.
Be safe. That's the main thing. Stay with us for your full forecast coming up next with Erin. She's tracking conditions that will affect many people's.
Now, Montana has one of the largest Native American populations, 7 reservations across the state, but it is a population dealing with pain and still trying to reconnect with itself after decades of oppression and grief. Tonight we go on special assignment to see just how Montana's Native Americans are facing their past and creating a better future.
The smoke is taking away my problems, taking away, it's taking my prayers and what I'm thinking to the Creator.
Cleansing with sage is how Eric Thomas starts and ends his day. He's part of the Gros Ventre and Oneida tribes. He's raising children, going to school, and looking to the future while acknowledging the past.
And some of those aspects in my life that has happened to me when I was a kid, I didn't really connect them with what happened to my ancestors a long time ago, and now I can make that connection.
I heard an elder say, our youth, our Native youth are angry and don't even know why they're angry.
At the Missoula Urban Indian Health Center, there's a group called Mending Broken Hearts.
This group acknowledges the historical trauma and unresolved grief.
It's a grief and loss recovery group that focuses on educating and healing Native American historical intergenerational trauma. It focuses on the boarding school era, a time in history that broke up families. It suppressed and disrupted an entire culture, and in many cases still does. It is a well-documented phenomenon.
You need only look to the emotions of sadness. They can run through generations unconsciously.
This is something in regards to the symptoms that we're seeing in our community,
including identity issues, poverty, alcoholism, and premature death among Native Americans.
I think it's really changed, there was only
Dustin Monroe is Blackfeet and Assiniboine. He's helping to change the future for Native Americans. He's a UM student working towards his PhD in medical anthropology. When he was a child, a white teacher told him he needed to stop talking like an Indian. And that may have silenced him for a while, but no longer. He founded a nonprofit group called Native Generational Change to find that Native child and create new leaders.
So I'll take a Native American in some community, not the one that has the perfect 4.0. I'm not looking for that child. I'm looking for the one that has a 3.0 or 2.5 or just wants to be something, wants to change something in their community, because a lot of our community leaders aren't on our tribal governments at times. They're just grassroots leaders that wanted their change.
And Dustin knows they're just getting started.
This generation is a whole different generation because we're actually getting educated and we're coming into today's society and sharing our culture and relearning our culture. And so you have a culture revitalization along with a language revitalization.
And Eric, he's also a part of this new generation by bravely changing the narrative of his family's future.
Today our warriors consist of our young men going to college, our young men getting education, our young men progress in their lives into, you know, something greater. I want to be a presence to people to show them that that's the way it was, that's not the way it has to be.
This Wednesday and Thursday, the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum and the University of Montana are hosting a symposium on this very topic, historical trauma. They're talking about Native American and African American trauma and the impact of war on children and much more. It's at the UM Center. It is open to the public, but you do need to register. You can find a link at kpax.com.